Pressing yang cuba dilakukan Romel Morales. Oh! Goal untuk Malaysia.
So a lot of us don't really care about international football unless there's a World Cup on, or if you do care a bit more, maybe the Euros, or if you're in South America, it's the Copa America, which is a shame because you're missing out on two tournaments that some might argue are probably more exciting than the World Cup or the Euros themselves, I should say. Yes, so if you didn't know, yes, there is Africa and Asia have had their having their continental tournaments as we speak right now, and we're sort of heading into the quarterfinals of the African Cup of Nations, which in fact is an older tournament than the Euros and the AFC Asian Cup. Of course, the AFCON. Africa Cup of Nations, or AFCON as everyone likes to call it, in this day of shortening things, is taking place in the Ivory Coast, and the AFC Asian Cup is taking place in Qatar. Which, when you think about it, there's not obviously there's still a long way to travel between both, but the distances, they're almost they're not too. The time difference between the two is not huge compared to in a part like Europe or with Asia. So we're heading into the quarterfinal stages of both tournaments, and obviously I can't I've talked about Malaysia being in the Asian Cup, I've done a video about that, but even Malaysia's still out. Malaysia's out, but there's still a lot of things to look forward to in the Asian Cup, and certainly in AFCON. So let's talk about AFCON first, because that's, I guess, while they are kicking off this Friday, Saturday, I guess let's talk about AFCON, because I think that certainly this particular edition has been quite a whopper. So when you think African nations, I guess you think, I guess if you're looking at recent times, I guess Nigeria stands out, thinking Cameroon with all the exploits of the 1990 World Cup. You're thinking Morocco, who were the first African team ever to make the semi-finals of the Football World Cup, finished fourth at the last World Cup. You're thinking Senegal with, Sadio Mane. You're thinking Egypt, Mo Salah. Let's just say that only Nigeria out of those countries, which were considered the top 5 seeds at this AFCON, only Nigeria is left. And yeah, because so you've had Senegal, who were knocked out by the host Cote d'Ivoire, who which no one saw, including myself, because they were knocked out 5-4 on penalties after drawing 1-1 in normal and extra time. Probably one of the most crazy things. We'll talk about Cote d'Ivoire shortly. Morocco were knocked out by South Africa 2-0. I'll talk about South Africa as well. Egypt knocked out on penalties 8-7 by DR Congo. Of course, they didn't have Mo Salah, and of course Nigeria beating Cameroon 2-0. I mean, that was always going to be, one giant was going to always exit that game. As a consequence, we're left with Nigeria, Angola. You'd think Nigeria's looks like Nigeria. If you're a Nigerian football fan, I guess you could say that you'd be feeling really, really good about your chances of winning AFCON. Because you're pretty much the best team left. And look, I guess you could say Nigeria have really shown to be the best team out of this tournament at the moment. I mean, Nigeria's always had some really top players. I think you're thinking right now, this year they've got Victor Osimhen, who, despite his issues at Napoli, has playing for the green and white, he's really, really stood out. And he's an absolute world-class player who should be in the Premier League soon. I'm still not wholly convinced that he's completely happy at Napoli given what's happened this season. So Nigeria taking on Angola. Look, Angola have had some really good results, but it would be a massive upset if Angola did beat Nigeria. Look, Angola do have some pedigree. They have made a World Cup, albeit that was back in 2006. Nigeria, winner of Nigeria, Angola goes on to play Cape Verde, yes, the island nation who beat Mauritania 1-0 with a penalty. They will play South Africa, not Morocco. So I think that's why I was saying before, Nigerian football fans will feel really good. Let's talk about South Africa though. The Bafana. Look, it's been a tough I'd say 15 odd years for Bafana. It's crazy to think, South Africa is probably one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest nation in Africa, although you can define what wealth is, physical or monetarily. But look, South Africa, by comparison to other African nations, is is certainly up there with the wealthiest. They've always they've always invested a lot in sport. And, look, they're the reigning Rugby World Cup champions. Cricket team's solid. But football is still the number one sport in South Africa. And so it had, no one really talks about Bafana South Africa being like a powerhouse African nation. And so seeing their performances at this World Cup, certainly that 2-0 result against Morocco, and you got to remember they're doing this without Lyle Foster, who's arguably probably their most famous player, unless you think famous for English, he plays for Burnley in the Premier League. He's not playing for South Africa due to personal reasons. And they've got, Cape Verde, they've got a real shot at South Africa. Bafana will feel they have a really good shot. Though Cabo Verde, with their reliance on their Portuguese-born players, have shown to be, in the last AFCON, have shown to be very competitive. So, but it's looking possibly, if I was to say, Nigeria, South Africa, we shall see what happens there. And then on the other side, the quarterfinals, you got Mali, who beat Burkina Faso in the Saharan derby. They're playing Cote d'Ivoire. Now, of course, let's talk about Cote d'Ivoire, because that was not, they were not expected to beat Senegal, of course, the reigning AFCON champions. Cote d'Ivoire, of course, and moreover, Cote d'Ivoire's previous game before that was a 4-0 defeat against Equatorial Guinea. And remember, they are the hosts of this tournament. And of course, after that game, they sacked their coach. So yeah, you've got a team here, Cote d'Ivoire, in the quarterfinals who don't have a coach, a full-time coach. They are playing at home. They've just been Senegal. So suddenly, could this be the formula to win what would be their first AFCON title? Well, we shall see. Crazier things have happened. Mali's a bit of a local derby, I guess, sort of both Western African nations, but yeah, so we shall see what happens. Of course, Cote d'Ivoire's sort of been and apologies, it would be their third AFCON title because they won in 1992, 2015. There would be probably their most unlikely win, of course, when you think about it, because I guess they've got Ismaila Sarr, they've got Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire have always had some decent players, but this side is still a bit young, it's still in transition, but they're at home, so anything could happen. Mali's going to be tough, but of course Cote d'Ivoire now got that home advantage. They can, knockout football, I guess, as we'll talk about, is quite different from. It's a completely different tournament from the round robins. So, teams can certainly afford to set up, stop, and park the bus. And look, they've got to do whatever they've got to do. So, watch this space of Cote d'Ivoire. And finally, of course, they all play Mali. The winner of Mali, Cote d'Ivoire will take on DR Congo and Guinea in the semi-finals. This will be pretty even. Get another West African derby, if you can call that. There's so many West African nations. The name derby kind of loses its meaning. This will be a pretty a very hard call, and I'd say it's not whoever is the semi-final is going to be pretty close. I think Guinea, DR Congo are stacked with pretty good players. This will be something to watch, and that's been the fascinating thing about this. A lot more African players are being identified. Might be born in France, or and their Guinea, their African heritage has been linked, and a lot more of them are playing in the Premier League in the top divisions in Europe. So yeah, that's why, and yeah, AFCON will be, that's why it's definitely worth watching the 2023 AFCON, which is being played in 2024 because it's just too hot to play in the summer in Ivory Coast. Yeah, and kicking off around the same weekend, of course, is the quarterfinals of the Asian Cup. Actually, I guess Qatar maybe they don't have to have as much rest. We're starting, we've on one side of the on one side of the semi-final draw. You've got Tajikistan playing Jordan in one quarterfinal, and then I think that's going to be pretty even. It's going to be a hard pick. I don't particularly know the sides too well. I mean, I know a little bit about Jordan. Of course, they played. They of course thrashed Malaysia in the first game. I know about that, but yeah. So I think this is going to be a very, very close one. But when they'll certainly face a very, very tough chance to make the finals. If when they make the semi-finals, because they've got to play either Australia, South Korea. Now, of course, South Korea did end up finishing third in their group because of that draw with Malaysia, and so they've ended up in they've ended up with a tough round of 16 quarterfinals. They played Saudi Arabia, which they got a dramatic last-minute equalizer, took the game to penalties, and now they play Australia, who seem to have found their goal-scoring boots against Indonesia, and kind of I guess they are always a good team. They've always been up for it, so this will be a good game. Australia, South Korea. It's a shame it's at 3:30 in the morning, I believe, for Australian viewers. Unless you're in Perth, of course. I think it's 2:30 a.m. Yes, so for Sydney. So that will certainly be one of the choice quarterfinals there. And then, of course, we're talking about the other side of the semi-final. You've got. Let's talk about Iran, Japan. That's a good game. That will be a good game, I think, because I guess these two heavyweights of Asian football. Japan Japan on paper are the favorites to win this at the moment, but there've been a few question marks. They lost to Iraq in the groups, and I guess they kind of found their focus back against Bahrain. Iran's going to be a bit of a step up, although they needed penalties to beat Syria, so it's uncertain how good Iran are really at this tournament. So but it's not, and of course then winner of Iran, Japan will take on the winner of Qatar, Uzbekistan. Of course, Qatar are the hosts; they are the favorites. They're playing a very, very nice brand of football, which we saw none of at the 2022 World Cup. Uzbekistan are good, but I think with Qatar at home, it's Qatar, of course, won the last Asian Cup. They're at home, so I would give that to Qatar. And I think Qatar, if Qatar was to play Japan or Iran, you wouldn't necessarily give the win to Japan or Iran. I think Qatar have a really good shot here of making a final. Of course, they're at home, and the final, of course, 10th of February in Lusail. So, yes, so that's talking about international football there. Look, there has been... Yeah, these tournaments have been really, really great. It's always nice seeing international football because it's kind of football at a sort of more realistic level, rather. A lot of the Premier League now feels like fantasy football, millionaires, billionaires, and all that, and even the Championship. So there's always passion for a country, and look, and as you would have seen, the commentary is just as good. So yeah, so definitely, if you can, keep an eye on the Asian Cup. It's not just Premier League football or Bundesliga, La Liga, etc. It's there is a tournament going on. Though I know there's been a bit of negative press from the English media because I see these tournaments as a bit of an annoyance, particularly when you see like Son, Heung-min, Mo Salah having been taken by away from Liverpool and Tottenham respectively. It's a bit of an annoyance, but I think if you are going solely by that mindset, you are missing out on some very good football. And certainly following the Asian Cup with Malaysia, it's been a pretty close tournament. In the group stages, there's been some very, very close games, and I certainly think, and the caliber of football, the quality, the referee might not be up there with UEFA or FIFA, but then again, I guess that's still a bit questionable given the amount of bribery in football. But so definitely give the AFC Asian Cup and the AFCON a go. If you like this video, feel free to like, and don't forget to subscribe.